Hello, I'm Paul Pluta from Paul Pluta Prestige, and today I'd like to talk about the Cartier tank watch. And I'm actually reviewing the Louis Cartier tank, which is the original incarnation of the tank. And I've got to say, I've actually owned a few. I've owned two mechanical Louis Cartier tanks in solid gold, and I've also owned a quartz one. And I've got to say, you know, if you want the classic piece, I mean, John F. Kennedy had a Cartier tank. Yves Saint Laurent was a huge Cartier tank fan. Andy Warhol, the famous artist, was a huge Cartier tank enthusiast. And it's easy to see why, because it's just such a classic, iconic watch. And I really do love the Cartier tank. By modern standards, the men's Cartier tank from the original one through the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, even 90s, it's probably a wee bit small by modern standards. It uses the classic formula of having a 18mm strap, that's from end to end, 18mm at the lugs. So most pieces today, like a Rolex Datejust, would be using a 20mm bracelet. Most pieces are using 20, if not bigger, in the sports watches. But the Cartier tank itself, it's possibly a wee bit small, but I'd still recommend getting one. And I think they're a lovely piece. I mean, it's 18 karat gold. The thing with the Cartier tank is you really should get the mechanical version. The quartz one, it's really losing its soul, and for a while there Cartier only had the Louis Cartier tank in quartz, so you had to buy a vintage one to get the manual wind movement. And I've got to say, it's a huge shame. I think the best one is the mechanical Cartier tank. And I've got to be completely honest with you there. I love Cartier. I love the brand. But when I had my Cartier quartz, which I think used a Piaget movement, which is quite a good quartz movement, I was disappointed when I found out that it had a plastic insert holding the movement in place in the watch. And I really don't like plastic in a high-end luxury watch. And you know, this is the reason that Cartier isn't held in the highest of stead, because they did stupid things like this. Why would you put a piece of plastic in the Cartier tank? And it's just silly things like that. And they get so much right, but they stuff it up to save nickels in the dollar. You know, it's just, I don't know what to say. I'm very disappointed with that. And it just pulls the whole thing down. I mean, a Louis Cartier 18 karat tank, that's an expensive watch. Very expensive watch. And it's disappointing that they've done things like that. But I still think, as far as an iconic watch goes, the Cartier tank would probably have to be one of the most famous watches of all time. And if you're a collector who really loves the iconic models, it's something to consider adding to your collection. Okay, let's have a look at the scoring for the Louis Cartier tank. That's the solid gold Louis Cartier tank. And we're not talking about the musty Cartier, which is the gold plated. We're talking the solid gold suckers. Okay, for the brand itself, I'm giving Cartier a 7, which is being quite generous. For this model itself in the range, I'm giving it a 10. Without the Cartier tank, I don't think Cartier would have the aura and the prestige that it does. For the actual movement that this piece uses, I'm going to give it a 6, and that's because at times they've used ETA movements. The later Louis Cartier tanks use a quartz movement, and I've spoken about my views on the plastic inside there. For the workmanship and finish of the piece, I'm going to give it a 6. And for the Paul Pluta Prestige rating, I'm going to give it an 8. So we tally that all up and we've got a score of 37. And that's not to say, you know, it's not a piece that's worth getting. It is a great iconic piece. It's lovely. I'm Paul Pluta from Paul Pluta Prestige, and I hope you've enjoyed my review on the Louis Cartier tank.